NSFW, sex workers of Reddit. Have you ever become emotionally attached to one of your clients, and what became of it? A serious answer. Since there's not many. I've definitely been attracted and started to get emotionally attached to clients before, but will always take a step back before I get in too deep. Part-time cam girl and escort, so I can get away with not going on for a week or skipping a date or two just to regroup and remind myself of the situation. I have also got past clients who are now friends, who I am very much so emotionally attached to. It's kinda weird to think back and realize we met through sex work. Honestly, I was a trafficked child sex worker from the age of 15 to about 18, mostly serving male clients in the 30s to 50s range. It's hard to explain the mentality that goes into that work when you're that young. But I would connect emotionally fairly regularly because many of the men would be very affectionate and give me gifts, take me to the zoo or other fun places, etc. Now I can look back as an adult and understand it was all internalized trauma which made me latch on to anyone who was kind to me. As an adult, I have went back to consensual sex work a few times, and always had a great time. I've connected with a client who was also a sex worker, and we dated for a while. The mutual understanding and respect for each other made it easy to get along. But as I stepped away from the life she and I made an amicable break, I just couldn't keep up with the emotional labor attached to sex work anymore, and with that a lot of the emotional labor she required. Former sex worker here. I fell in love with a client. He looked kind of rockabilly, and had heaps of tattoos. He'd bring me coffee and we'd talk about books and music. He made me a playlist of his favorite songs, and brought me a copy of his favorite book. We swapped real names and talked honestly about life and relationships. One night we met up in a bar and he hung out with my friends. Stayed out all night and he crashed at mine. We were together for about 2 years. I quit sex work and went back to university. Got a normal job. We moved in together. My family adored him and I got along really well with his mother. We broke up for pretty normal reasons. I wanted a responsible partner who I could build a life with, save money, be fit and healthy. He wanted to tour with a band, drink and party. Last time I saw him he was in and out of rehab and in some volatile relationship. I saw his mother last year and his business had failed. He hadn't been sticking with rehab and he was being charged with assaulting his ex-girlfriend. I really hope he manages to deal with his problems and get clean. I'm still thankful for the time we had and don't hold any grudges. I'm a male gay 4-pay sex worker. I've never fell for any of my male clients. Never had a female client before, that is a unicorn, in this business. Although I never fell for any clients, I did have deep respect for some of them. I would genuinely enjoy seeing and catching up. When I got close enough to some of these clients, we would just hang out, watch TV and have deep conversation, maybe with her head in my lap. Easy $300 to $400 tax-free. One thing I realized is that men crave physical affection. I'm not talking about sex, but holding, hugging, etc. Some would tell me no one has ever held them before in their 30 to 60 years of life. When I started holding/hugging clients after any sexual activity, it boosted recurring clients by 50%. Most of my clients now are non-sexual because of this. It feels amazing to be paid to connect with people on an intimate level. My ex-wife literally left me for one of those random stranger commenters on /r/Gone Wild. Does that count? We were still married. He was the last in a string of cheating betrayals. But yeah, several weeks later they were meeting in person, and they are over a year long distance dating now. Suffice it to say, we are divorced now. So, hey, /r/Gone Wild commenters, you actually have a chance. So keep trying. Not a sex worker, but I've got a friend who bowled a 300 the other day. He was really pumped and I feel really happy for him. I used to be a $5,000 a night escort, but I fell madly in love with a socially awkward guy who loves to smoke weed and play video games, and now I couldn't be happier. Now instead of going out I stay in and feed my boyfriend pizza rolls while we watch anime together. I'm the luckiest girl in the world. Friend of a former sex worker. She had severe emotional attachment issues, and that's what led her to sex work in the first place. She got emotionally attached to many clients, none of whom even treated her well. She says that if I hadn't made her cut contact with them and stay with me while she got help, she probably would have married one of them and pumped out babies for an abusive husband. I'm not going to get into whether sex work is right or wrong. It's important to realize though that, the way it is now, it draws in very vulnerable people with deep-seated issues. I'm not saying everyone is like that, but it does appeal to people who confuse physical intimacy for emotional intimacy. This might get buried, but I met a client around my age a short while ago, and was intensely attracted to him. After the first meeting, I haven't asked him to pay me again. We just enjoy each other's company. He doesn't get jealous of my clients. He understands my need for space. So far things have gone well. Ask me again in another month though. Former sex worker. I became completely infatuated with this man who would come into the strip club I worked at. I actually never let him pay me because being around him never felt like work. He would buy me gifts though and offer to pay my tuition. I said no. He was the first person to ever give me an orgasm and was the only person I met at that club that I did anything more than dance with. We texted each other regularly and were basically just having an affair. I was 18 to 21 at the time. He was 48 to 51. Eventually I quit my job, threw my cell phone in the garbage while on vacation and ghosted him. I remember him pretty fondly and think about him sometimes even though he was pretty shady. I haven't spoken to him in years, but I ran into his daughter at a networking event a few months ago. The industry we work in is a fairly small and gossipy community, and I really hope I don't have to awkwardly work with her in the future. Not a sex worker, but I once met this girl online. She had a beautiful voice and I felt instantly attracted to her. We met through a friend. I hosted my own TeamSpeak server at the time and he would frequently use it with whoever he was gaming with. She was very impressed with the fact that I ran the server for some reason and we started talking. After a few months of hanging out online, I finally got up the courage to ask her out. Turned out that she lived about 7 hours away. So I drove out there and picked her up for a concert. I got there and instantly there were sparks. She was turned on by my car as well, and as a car guy that was a big plus for me. We kept visiting each other and eventually she moved in with me. I became emotionally attached to her and we eventually got married. Are serious answers allowed? I briefly dipped my toes into the whole sugar baby thing and ended up falling in love with my sugar daddy, who I'm still with. Wasn't exactly a full-blown sex worker but did have one other sugar daddy prior to that and a little dabble in panties selling. More of a rebellious phase than a money thing. Anyways, I stopped accepting money a couple months in. Prior to that, I got $600 per date, and started dating as a normal couple. Still going strong a year and a half later and even starting to talk marriage and kids. Won't tell the kids how we met. A woman I have been good friends with for years found her husband at a strip club she was working at. She said that she was instantly attracted to him, and even more so when she noticed that he looked like he'd rather be at the dentist getting cavities filled than be there. He was forced because of his brother's bachelor party. They started talking. She bought him a few glasses of Diet Coke. They exchanged numbers. Got engaged 1 year later, literally from the day they met. And have been married and happy for 15 years next month. She always told herself that she'd never fall in love again. Ex was an abusive nightmare, and boom. Love at first sight, according to them. I don't believe in that. She glows from happiness when he's near and it's beautiful. Well, it all started innocently enough. We'd meet up about once a week for fairly vanilla stuff. But there was something about him. He walked a little funny, and slurred his words sometimes. But he really got me. It wasn't until we'd been seeing each other for about a year that I realized his slur came from always chewing beans. Once I saw that, I realized he was a giant crustacean from the Paleolithic era. I knew I should have charged him more than $3.50.